Hey, this is the World Advice Channel 2. What I want to talk about today is the topic of how we can end government corruption, okay? So for this video, I'm going to discuss in a simple and straightforward way two solutions of what we can do to end government corruption, to be quite blunt and honest with you. You know, for that matter, okay? So if you're interested in knowing what we can do to end government corruption, you know, for that matter, then watch this video in order to find out. So now that I've mentioned that, let's get started. So when it comes to the topic of how we can end government corruption, you know, in the government, the first way that government corruption can, of course, end is simply preventing government officials, of course, from putting their hands in a taxpayer monies, okay? And which the truth of the matter is, even though it might sound like, you know, maybe idealistic and so on and so forth in people's eyes, I definitely believe it definitely, undeniably can be done, okay? Because when you put your money into the hands of course, you know, taxpayer money, to be more exact, the money we as everyday people worked our asses off to, of course, you know, get and of course pay for tax money. You know, the truth of the matter is, to be quite blunt and honest with you, okay, is that why exactly, for crying out loud, should we have our taxpayer money be used for a lot of these things these government officials have, whether it could be everything from presents to you know, to get to items like watches and designer clothes, to even private jet vacations and stuff. Why is that acceptable, for crying out loud, okay? Why is it their right to get their freaking hands on anything that relates to taxpayer money, specifically due to the fact that a lot of these people already have enough money as it is? You know, most politicians, if not all, for that matter, come from very rich family and backgrounds. And if you come from a rich family background, why the hell do you need money from taxpayer dollars? You know, for that matter, okay? There's no justification, you know, in any way, shape, or form. They should never be able to put their freaking hands in any way, for that matter, on the money everyday people have. To be quite blunt and honest with you, that's none of their freaking role to get their hands on. There's no excuse in any way, shape, or form. There shouldn't be any whatsoever hands in any way, shape, or form in that, okay? If they lay a freaking finger in that stuff, they should already suffer dramatic penalties. I'm just going to be quite blunt and honest with you, okay? You know, why should they get their hands in that stuff for that, okay? You know, which, even though, of course, you know, with the way the world is going, you know, people think communism is the answer to that issue, you know, and stuff, and, you know, which, of course, an ideology is a shit fest, and it's always failed, and will always continue to fail, for that matter. But at the truth of the matter, to be quite blunt and honest with you, communism, you know, oh god, I hate that ideology. It doesn't work, it never has worked, it never will work. You know, instead of you relying on communism to solve the problem, you know, what we should actually rely on is, of course, no surprise, actually, of course, you know, simply having better measures to prevent that from happening. Not only by preventing them from ever getting their hands on taxpayer money whatsoever in any way, shape, or form, but have people who, of course, watch them to make sure that they're not able to get their hands on taxpayer money in any way, shape, or form, okay? That's the truth of the matter, which, of course, will help keep our society stable, functioning, and healthy, unlike the numerous civilizations throughout human history that have literally fallen for that exact same fucking reason, due to government corruption, you know, whether it could be, you know, obviously the Romans, another one, of course, could obviously be, you know, the numerous Chinese dynasties, to obviously, you know, the predecessors of Rome in Europe, like obviously the numerous ones that existed in medieval times, to Literally just every empire throughout history, look it up yourself, they all fell directly due to government corruption, okay? Every single time it was due to government corruption, for that matter, okay? That's literally why they fell. There's other reasons, but the main reason for that matter is government corruption. That specifically. Let's not talk around things for that matter. Let's focus on the main direct thing that caused it, which is government corruption. And that's the truth, okay? Which of course we don't want, our modern nations, specifically America, the most powerful nation in the world, that we all in one way, shape, or form, whether we like to admit it or not, rely on, to fall like previous empires throughout history have fallen, especially in a world with modern technology. That would not be a very good experience, okay? So if we don't want our civilizations to fall, we obviously need to have good measures in place to prevent that from happening, to be honest with you, like obviously not having, government corruption, because government corruption, of course, is a big problem, and with issues like government corruption, either things that we need, like our taxpayers to be, our tax money for that matter, like to be spent on, whether things like better infrastructure, better education, better medicine, yada yada yada, the whole 9 yards, you get the point. How are we going to fucking actually get that shit done if we don't have the money to do it? It's common sense. Money makes the world go around, and that's the honest truth of the matter. So if we obviously have these measures in place, we won't have government corruption. That's the honest truth of the matter, and that is the very, 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 very truth, and that is about it. Okay, there's no ifs, ands, or buts. We need to stop letting these people be able to get their hands on taxpayer money. These people already have enough money, and let's leave it like that. Let's not have any exceptions to the rule. Let's leave it like that. That's the first point, okay? The second point, notice how I say second, but definitely, is something that's important, which is why I put such an emphasis on the second, is that we need to also teach people how to have better self-control, okay? This one is definitely going to be more controversial ones, and a lot of people are going to say it's idealistic, whatever. Some people are stupid anyway, so they're going to say all these sorts of things, but the truth of the matter is this one is not controversial. This is actually a very fucking good one, okay? Because we have to teach people how to have good self-control, for that matter, when it comes to, not letting things tempt them, okay? Because the truth of the matter is the people who, of course, would be tempted to be greedy, already people who have enough money, okay, for that matter, okay, as it is, to be honest with you. So let's not tempt, so if they already have enough money, as it is, and they can do something that can make them a lot more money, the truth of the matter is that obviously is an issue of self-control that they need to learn. They're still going to get it, money, but they just need to have, of course, better self-control to make sure that they're not overly tempted, of course, to be greedy, for that matter. Because no matter how you look at the end of the day, if you are someone in a position of power and you're making the right decisions, it will always pay off more in the end of the day to do things the proper way instead of relying on greed to make your decisions, okay? To be quite blunt and honest with you, more money will always be generated in the long run than in the short run. So we need to teach them to have better self-control, these people in positions of authority. There are ways, there are techniques that can be done to definitely help people do that, okay, for that matter, okay? Just like when it comes to trying to not be tempted to eat junk food, okay? For that matter, okay? Which is a perfect example of what I mean, okay? It's something you have the ability to give into, and so something you have the ability to not give into, okay? And for that matter, look at how many people are successful, in losing weight, in one way, shape, or form, okay? So to answer your question, just like how you can resist food cravings, when it comes to cravings for money, there are ways you can resist cravings when it comes to getting a lot of money and stuff for that matter, okay? There are definitely techniques that can be done, let alone just having better willpower. Because at the end of the day, not giving in to temptation will always pay off in the long run. And that is the honest truth, okay? For that matter. At least in the vast majority of cases, it always pays off. And that is the truth. So anyway, this is my video. discussing solutions on how we can end government corruption. I hope you enjoyed it and found it informative. And just remember, if you like this video and videos like this, remember to thumbs the video up and the subscribe button. And this is all to say, and simply put it, I am out. So bye.